What's up guys, today we're going to be going over the newly improved Diamond Lance on Titan and seeing how good it is now and trying to determine if it's worth using. Also, we'll be making a cool build with it, so definitely stay tuned for that. So what did they even do to Diamond Lance? Well, now it increases the fragment slots from 1 to 3, which that alone is huge for PvE, and now it can be spawned in from a Stasis weapon kill, a Stasis ability, or shattering any frozen target. So that sounds like it's gonna work really well with a Stasis kinetic weapon with headstone on it, for example the Ice Luna, because 1, it's a Stasis weapon, and 2, with the headstone you'll shatter enemies. So now with just simply putting on this weapon, we'll be spawning in the Diamond Lance left and right. Now there is a cooldown of 6 seconds of how often you can spawn one in, but between the Stasis weapon final blows and shattering the frozen targets, I mean, you'll have that on cooldown every single time. And then once you pick up the Diamond Lance, you have 2 options. You can melee with it, which will slam the ground. So if there's enemies right on top of you, that will be the best option. But you can also throw it and kind of treat it like another grenade. So overall, Diamond Lance is practically a third ability for Titans, and it's really cool. But it's not going to be something that is going to be like a huge single target damage type ability. Just like most of the Stasis abilities outside of Glacier Grenade, it's mostly just to freeze or slow targets. This one will freeze instantly. But unlike most of the other Stasis abilities, this one will do damage on impact, so it's going to be really good for group low tier ad clear, or just freezing a big group of higher health targets instantly, almost like a Duskfield grenade size radius, but one that will freeze instantly. So overall, using Diamond Lance is practically like having a second grenade every 6 seconds, which is obviously extremely strong. So now we look at a build to optimize Diamond Lance on Titan. The first part of the build will be with Stasis shards. So we have the aspect Tectonic Harvest, where shattering a Stasis crystal creates a Stasis shard, and the Stasis shards will give you melee energy by default. And we'll be able to create those shards from our Glacier Grenade along with our Headstone crystals whenever we get a headshot kill. Then with all those shards, we're gonna have a few different fragments to help out. The first one being Whisper Conduction, which will make these shards track towards us. Then we also have Whisper of Rhyme, which will give us Overshield whenever we collect these shards, and that Overshield will last until it's broken or 10 seconds, and every single time we get another shard, it'll reset the timer. Then we also have the mod Elemental Shards to make them count as Stasis Elemental Wells, and with that we have Phantom Might to give that 25% more damage with our Ice Luna. So now with all that going on, when we throw our Glacier Grenade, there should be 5 crystals that spawn in. Destroying all of them will give us 5 shards. Picking those 5 shards will give us a bunch of Overshield. And through Elemental Shards, proc Phantom Might. And there is a cooldown of how often that can be procced as a Stasis Elemental Well. And that's going to be, I believe, 10 seconds. So just like the Diamond Lance, there is a cooldown. But with this build, you'll be proccing both instantly the second they're both off cooldown. So now you're gonna be stacking that Overshield like crazy between all the shards, having Phantom Might constantly is looking pretty good. Now the other third of the build is gonna be improving our Stasis abilities. So first we have Whisper of Fissures to increase the damage and the radius of all of our Stasis shatters. Then we have Whisper of Shards, which will give us that improved grenade recharge rate for 5 seconds per crystal we destroy. And finally, we have Whisper of Rending to make our Ice Luna one-hit all of the different crystals and do more damage to frozen targets. And now for the mods to help out, we have Explosive Webmaker, which will work with all of the different Stasis abilities, including Headstone. Anytime we get 2 Shatter kills, it will spawn a Solar Elemental Well. Then on top of that, we have Bountiful Wells. That way, every single time that happens, we'll get 2 Solar Elemental Wells. And even though we're on Stasis, if we're only using our grenade, we'll still get the huge chunk of our grenade back when we pick them up. So now between our Diamond Lance, our Headstone Crystal Shatters, and our Glacier Grenade, all 3 which will be greatly improved due to the Whisper Fissures, and we'll all be able to create 2 Solar Elemental Wells, along with a fragment giving us improved grenade recharge rate. We should have our Glacier Grenade quite often with this build, and all the different Stasis names will just completely destroy the entire room. So the final third of the build will be about healing. We already showed off we have Whisper of Rhyme, which will give us that Overshield when we pick up these shards that track towards us. But now we also have Precious Scars, which is Exotic Helmet, where final blows with a matching damage type to your subclass will create a burst of healing for you and your allies, and obviously that will work with Ice Luna on Stasis. And our final mod will be Well of Life, so when we pick up these Solar Elemental Wells, we'll get constant health regen. So now between the Overshield, the healing from picking up the Solar Elemental Wells, and the 2 different healings from our Exotic Helmet, I mean, you're just not dying. You're just not. I can stand in front of Carl, which, you know, usually kills you in about 0.5 seconds, and just completely tank his shots. And yeah, I mean, that just should say enough alone. And showing off the rest of the things I have on, I have the Glacioclasm along with the Sleeper Simulant. Then I have Particle Deconstruction like normal and 2 Grenade Kickstarts. Another version of this build you could do is take off Ice Luna and put on the Pyrothesia. And now with this, you would have like 2 extra grenade type abilities. So you have the Diamond Lance, which we already talked about a bunch. Then with the Exotic Sidearm, you have like Duskfield that instantly freezes with the Charge Shot. Now with this build, you would only get the shards from your Glacier Grenade, which is still fine, but obviously that's going to be happening less often than when you had Headstone to create additional crystals. So I'd probably change the build and make it not revolve around shards as much as it is right now. So for example, one thing I'd do is take off elemental shards and put on armaments instead, and then maybe change a few of the fragments. But that version of the build obviously works extremely well too, and instead of creating the Headstone crystals, you would then have that Duskfield size insta-freeze with the Stasis Sidearm. So overall, this update didn't make Diamond Lance itself necessarily better. It's still exactly the same as it was before in terms of what it does, but the fact that you get 3 fragment slots, which allows 5 fragments on your character, makes it so builds with it are way better, and you can take advantage of way more fragments. And not to mention that it's just way easier to spawn in the Diamond Lance now. You'll practically have it every 6 seconds. Just makes it a little bit more usable. So for those reasons, it's definitely a great aspect now to use. And this build is really good to pair with it. And there's so much going on in this build that it's kind of like one that as you play it more, you'll get better and better with it because you'll learn to manage the different cooldowns and things like that. And when you first start playing it, there's so much going on. It's kind of like overwhelming to keep track of all the different things, but I can see if I play it more, I'll get used to it and it'll just be so good. Because right now, picking up the Diamond Lance just isn't a part of my muscle memory, and I usually forget to even do it. Anyways, I think that's gonna be it for the commentary. The rest of the video will just be some strike gameplay with the 2 versions of the build. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.